Hey everyone, it's Shawn. Welcome and thank you for joining us for another Journey to CEO show. We are still talking a lot about what is happening in this COVID / post-COVID emergency environment as business starts to get back. Today we want to focus on agility. This has been a series that we've been doing for the Journey to CEO YouTube channel. It's been myself and Dr. Ann Gaddy, who I'm going to bring up on the screen here in just a second. And we wrote a book called Redirection. And redirecting is about redirecting your business in light of COVID, the pandemic, et cetera. You can pick up a copy on Amazon.com. And we stopped and said, hey, a lot of businesses have had to change. And so if you've been watching this Journey to CEO series, we're bringing out different lessons in that process. And today we wanted to focus on agility. So Dr. Ann, why don't you jump in and tell us what agility means to you, and then we'll get a little deeper into the topic.
Well, first of all, glad to be here again. It's always fun to talk with you, Shawn. I think the need for discussing agility and an agile organization is that we're still feeling the disruption. And more companies are realizing that, and organizations, that they have to be able to move more quickly. Speed becomes a very important aspect for being able to survive and thrive in this environment. So an agile organization has some features that become very, very helpful. And, this was a time when a lot of organizations had to look and say, hey, what is our purpose? What is our vision? And that purpose and shared vision within the organization becomes like the North Star. And so it gives everybody an understanding what the trajectory is. So that becomes one of the main components of beginning an agile environment or an agile organization. And then the other thing that I think becomes two other points that become very important is how you structure your organization, having a network of teams that can work together, because then the process can be sped up and you can have quicker decision making, quicker learning cycles as you are adapting to the changing environment. So it's a much flatter but much smoother organization to be able to pivot, which, you and I have talked a lot about pivoting.
Yeah, well, pivot was kind of the magic word, and I was thinking that while you're saying it. But, agile is, I think, the ability to kind of chain pivots together, in my mind.
Right.
A lot of organizations pivoted, right? I mean, a lot of people had to change to survive the COVID era. And, you're made an adjustment, right? And we talked last time, we talked about maybe a brewery or distillery, switching to hand sanitizer, bring some temporary money in. That's a quick pivot. But an agile organization is really built to do successive pivots, right? To be in touch with the market, to change.
It's always going to be changing, and it realizes that it's built on the ability to change rather than be stable and say, okay, we're Mars Candy Bar or Mars Candy Company, and so the Milky Way is always going to be popular, and we're just going to stay in that stable environment. But instead, these organizations, agile organizations, realize that technology, and we talk about that in our book, Journey to CEO, technology is always changing and will continue to change. So you build your organization to be able to embrace that changing technology and improve with that. And at the same time, realize that information, and we talk about this too in our book, information is being digitalized, just like you say you're digitalizing all your files, but it's digitalizing so that we have greater access to just this, ocean full of information that is just coming at us. I mean, it's really sped up the amount of information that we have to process, which is why it becomes important with an agile organization to be able to make decisions quicker and make, so it's speed becomes a major improvement and an asset of an agile organization.
Well, yeah, and not only do you have to be fast in the agile organization, but you have to really have that culture of we're going to change. And it's the opposite of what we talked about in a prior show, Blockbuster Kodak, right? They wanted
Right.
the world to change to them. They said,
Right.
we're the best at renting DVDs, and we're going to be really good at renting DVDs. Come rent all your DVDs. So good that people, stopped renting DVDs. But they were the best at renting DVDs, except nobody wanted to rent DVDs anymore. And Kodak said, hey, we make really great film and we have great profit margins on film. Keep buying all your 35 millimeter film from us.
Right.
And so people said, we don't need 35 millimeter film. We got a cell phone with a camera in it.
Right. And that's sitting there, that's really ignoring
the market
happening around you.
Right.
And an agile organization also, because of the remote working situation, now we were a little worried that the talent pool was going to be shrinking, but because we can work remotely, more and more companies are figuring ways to do that. It allows you to hire anywhere. And therefore, the learning cycle has to be sped up a little bit.
Yeah, and it brings up the greater point that you want to hire learners, right? I mean, you need to hire. I mean, we traditionally hire for what skills people have and what they bring to the table, and there's still going to be an element of that going into the future. But also importantly, we need to look at, what can people do? What skills do they have? Can they change? Are they going to bring us new ideas, right? You're more valuable. Employees in the long term are not just the ones that are the order takers, but it's like the one Darren Martin talked about. And I think I mentioned on one of our Journey to CEO shows in the past, Dr. Darren Martin, he some Sonic employee, he goes to the franchise owner and says, people keep asking for our ice. And they drop $2 million to the bottom line by putting a sign out there like, buy your bag of ice here.
Yeah.
Because the employee was paying attention and they were thinking, what does the customer want? How can we take what we already got and make something better? You need employees like that.
And also just the idea that, look at how we're communicating and how that's changing so quickly. So, we used to talk about learning organizations, but now, and they were sort of a new and upcoming idea. Now it's for an agile organization, it's built-in learning. You have to be able to learn, and it has to be the ability to have Scrum teams that maybe come together and work on a particular project and then go off and, regroup with other people. I mean, there are all sorts of ways that we can form agile organizations, but it really is more of a networking than a top-down hierarchical approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the key, right? Everybody's got to be part of it.
Right.
The central brain trust, the old model, which was, you had your headquarters somewhere, and even that model's under attack, even in the big companies now. But you would have your home office, and all the ideas would come to the home office, and then they would send it out to everybody, and everybody would do what the home office said, right? That was kind of the old command and control style of doing business in big companies, and small companies kind of incorporated as well, right? Maybe you had a handful of people that were the decision makers and they told everybody else what to do. Well, now you need to have that interconnectedness. That information needs to flow.
Well, not only that, and also I say you have to have people that are doing reconnaissance, out there really seeing what, like you say, what does the customer want? How are they changing? What are their behaviors that are changing, so that you can adapt and meet the customer's needs? I mean, that's something where, they're going to be changing just as much as technology is going to be changing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so everybody's changing. It's just a matter of, can your organization change? And then you've got to take it beyond the employees, right? The human resources is critical in this.
Right.
But then you've got to build a structure where you can continue to shift without getting locked in. I think that was part of the problem, with our common case study, Kodak and Blockbuster, right? They built all this infrastructure around a certain way, and then you're afraid to break away from what you're doing because you got to rework your infrastructure.
Well, and going back to your idea about the headquarters,
Yeah.
I know a gentleman who worked for Kodak, and he was a technician. He went and, they had those little hubs in the stores and stuff, and he would help with the 1 minute or no, 1 hour processing, film processing. And he said, this is going away. We are going to be out of business. And so the technicians, the frontline people, saw it coming, but headquarters wasn't going to buy it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's been a case with a lot of companies where,
right.
Lower level employees have spotted the trend.
Right, because they're working with the customers.
They're working with the customers. They're seeing what's happening. They're getting the feedback.
Yeah.
And you don't have a two-way channel, right? I mean, the old and that's part of the trick too, right? Is the old system was, boss gives the orders, employee follows out the orders, and it's a one-way communication channel. And it's not going to keep you competitive in today's environment to have these one-way channels because you're not getting that feedback. The supervisor generally doesn't have the time to be in touch with all the customers. So they need somebody that's in touch with the customers, telling them what's there and what's broken. I mean, I'm famous for it. I'll call in places and they'll have an inefficient phone system, and you tell them that, and then they'll be like, okay, I'll make a note of it. Right. But you're frustrating your customers. You're wasting your own employees' time, but yet I guarantee you that information is not going back up the channel to get fixed.
And, even with technology and being on the web, and you go to the web and do research on the internet, there still is the need for human interaction, and websites and companies that don't give ways for you to talk to a human are really shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, because it's, as you said, it's frustrating the customer.
Yeah, don't do it in a small business because you've probably been frustrated with it in a big business, right? You call in, you can't find the right number in the phone tree on your telephone. You're searching through the website and you can't find an actual phone number or a way to get to a human being, and you got to do a bunch of searches, right? And I think these companies think they're being efficient, right? Oh, we're being efficient, and then small business thinks, oh, well, if we can, route people to our website and they can solve the problem for ourselves. I mean, I get it. You have to be efficient, and some businesses are different than others. If you're a high volume, low touch business, you may have to do some extent of that. But think about the advantage of having the real conversation. The old Zapatos, right? The shoes, right? Before they were acquired with Amazon, they reportedly allowed their employees to spend as long on the phone as they wanted with any inbound customer calls, right?
Well,
so while most companies are rushing their agents off the phone, like, did I solve your problem? See ya. They were actually like, hey, what do you like about our shoes? What do you need? What are you not finding on our website?
I just was hearing, as I was driving today and listening to the radio, reports are coming in that after this pandemic, people have a real need to talk to other people. They haven't done small talk in months. And so now it's, there's this real, sort of urgent need to get out there and to go to places, and, maybe they hadn't been going to events before, but now they're missing that. And I think that companies need to, this is a part of agility and an agile organization, realizing, okay, we're going to have to pivot and see how do we have that personal touch with the customer, because they've been devoid of that for too long. And it's something that is actually inhumane. Humans are relationship driven.
Yeah. And they want to interact, right? So, and that's probably, as we go full circle, that was one of the first things that was taken away. And I do hear a lot of people, particularly, restaurants, dinners, that kind of stuff. I mean, there is like, what some people call would be a pent up demand. These people are like, hey, we want to go back and we want to go do the things we used to do, and we're ready, and we're going to spend our money to go do it.
Right.
So now there's an opportunity as a business to say, how can we address this market need? There is a need to get back to human touch, right? And human touch is a growing segment. I mean, it's a differentiator that you could have.
Well, and if you are an agile organization and you have a network of teams, you have more opportunities to get people out and interact with your customer than if you're a top-down hierarchical approach.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this is a chance for listen to the market. I mean, the market's starting to say, hey, in person, we want personal touch. So pivot that way until they start saying the opposite, then you start moving. But I think more and more of us need to build our organizations to move back and forth as the market needle moves.
I think the more that top management can interact, the better. And if they're not having to, make every single decision because they've empowered their teams, they should have more time to be able to address their customers, say thank you for staying loyal or what have you, because really this is going to be another transition when we transition back into the next normal.
Yes, whatever that is. Exactly.
I know.
And that's part of it. And this also ties into that, right? I mean, we talk about planning in our redirection book, our Journey to CEO book, which we're finalizing. Redirection is kind of a smaller subset of some of the information tailored to coronavirus that comes from the Journey to CEO book. And we talk about that as planning, but a lot of people are saying right now it's hard to plan because we don't know where things are going to go. And we hear it. But that's where agility comes in. When you're planning to listen to the market and adjust and be flexible, you have the opportunity to listen and move versus being so wired into a particular way of doing things that you can't change.
Yes. And so you have to be able to be comfortable with changing the way we do things.
Yes. And keep shifting. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see the more and more companies moving to an agile organization. And it's something that smaller organizations can do unless they are so small that, the upper management has to do more than one function. But I do think that we're going to see more of this. And as you grow through Journey to CEO and as you expand, I think you can't lose sight of the benefits of an agile organization and make certain that you build in these particular components, including networking of teams, including embracing ways to continually upgrade your technology and ways in which you can quickly make decisions and are continually learning. So it's really important.
It's absolutely critical, right, that you embrace this as more than just, something that you might do one time or you might change to get through a pandemic. What you really want to do is say, how do I make listening to the market and changing part of my ongoing philosophy, right? Build it into your DNA of your business.
Well, you got the market, you got technology, and our ever popular government regulations. I mean, I spend so much of my time with the clients just reading daily changes in regulations that they have to deal with. So, that's another part of being agile. It's all of a sudden you have COBRA that is being extended for your employees, and it's for how long, and the company has to pay it, and now you get tax breaks. I mean, it's just constant. It's constant.
Yeah, it's more so than ever. And, I guess right now, either immediately before we got on or concurrent with our, speech, they're talking about another huge bill, which is marked for transportation, but money is going every which way. And so we know what'll come with that is another package of regulations. You should do this. You should do that. We're going to incentivize you to do this. We're going to tax you if you do that.
Right.
Which all agility, right? We can't change the regulation environment changing. We have to be ready to move.
Well, and OSHA is expanding its safety regulations, and there's still, we're still waiting for some of the information to come down about vaccines and what you can do and can't do with employees. I mean, there's just a lot. There are a lot of moving parts. Let's just say that. And that's why, we want to really, really bring home the idea that the more you can be agile, the more you're going to be able to adapt, survive, and then you can turn that into the ability to thrive.
Yep. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the comment box for our viewing audience. I'm putting the link there to get onto our Journey to CEO email list. You'll get updates about shows like this, updates about the books, and new concepts and ideas you can test. And we're going to build some communities of business owners. If you're interested in being in one of the betas for that, feel free to reach out directly to me or Dr. Ann, and we can talk to you about getting you set up on one of our beta teams. But this is something where we, the people that are going to be very successful in the future, a lot of them are going to put the time in now to embrace this agile philosophy to be ready for the next round of changes coming.
Right.
So, folks, thanks for joining us. Dr. A, another great show. Folks, drop some comments. Let us know you were here. Share this with your friends. Come hang out with us. Of course, subscribe to the Journey to CEO YouTube channel. And we'll see you guys again soon for another show. Look forward to seeing you on our mailing list. That link is there in the comment box. Catch you all guys soon.